state of mind. I wanna be there like all the time. Ain't got no tears left to cry. So I'm picking it up, picking it up. I'm living, I'm picking it up. Okay.
Hi, baby cakes. You got no tears left to cry, but we do. There's plenty of tears to cry. And
Yep.
it's kind of right on brand with this episode, actually. So, guys, we decided not to spin the wheel on the recording
Th
anymore.
that's my fault.
I tried. If you guys like it, feel free to comment and tell Victoria she's stupid
Oh,
because
damn. Now
I'm
you
kidding.
clocking my tea.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But there's validity in why we're doing it. But I think because I put so much heart and soul into the wheel, I'm a little like, I'll miss it. But just to clarify, we are spinning the wheel just off camera to choose our topic. So we did it earlier, and this week's topic is emotional maturity and like intelligence. But I think we're gonna stick with like the emotional maturity because they're kind of similar, so to speak. So we're going to kind of dive right in. Victoria is going to kick us off and give us kind of a general understanding of what emotional immaturity looks like and how we can grow and transcend and become more emotionally mature. So I'll let you take it away. Oh, did I forget to say my name? Your singing was so good. I got totally distracted. Hi,
So
everyone.
sorry.
A little delayed. My name is Chloe, and this is my co-host Victoria. Welcome back, or welcome back to the Cosmic Call Out.
Hey.
Hey. Okay, now we have a proper intro and we can dive in fully.
Welcome back. Anyway, um, yeah, we're starting off a little bit different today. It is Monday. It is a little rough Monday, but nothing that we can't take, I guess,
I mean,
right?
yeah, it comes every week. We know what to expect. Like every day is really the same. Days of the week are made up, but that's a whole discussion for another day.
Ooh. All
Okay.
right. So I have a few like emotional maturity, like immaturity traits
Okay.
that Chloe and I worked on. So we're kicking it off with impulsivity, all right? And that's like reacting without thinking, um, acting without thinking, because it's also reaction and acting, like all that is completely different. Some examples of that would probably be like I say something upsetting and your immediate reaction is to like throw something
Cuss you
or
out.
cuss
Be
me out.
hang
Yeah, like
Yeah, it's just conflict at its finest. It's like there's
yeah.
no pause. It's just like, yeah.
Yeah, you didn't even give it a chance to simmer and realize that it was not that deep, but go
No,
ahead,
it's
I
no,
guess.
it's like feeling it like up and through your whole body.
Which I tend to do sometimes when it's
Well,
something that
well,
like hits
well,
home.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. We're human.
Yeah, yeah, of course. We're not human anyway. All right, another one would be blame. Yeah, that's pretty
We,
self-explanatory.
we all know her. We all been her. We all been
Yeah.
blamed. We all blame.
Yeah. Lack of empathy. If people don't know what empathy might be, it would be like lack of
Get off of
understanding.
this podcast if you don't
Right.
know
I
what
mean,
empathy.
yes, but for the
No,
ones
stay
that
because we'll
don't,
tell you.
yeah, we're trying to educate you. But difficulty understanding others' feelings, that's a lack, that's a immaturity trait, emotional
Okay.
immaturity trait. Defensiveness, um, yeah, I do get defensive. I do. Okay. Avoidance.
Yeah, it's when it's defensiveness, I feel like relates to taking things personally. So if someone says something and it triggers something within you, you feel the need to defend yourself or stand up for yourself, which I think there's a certain line between like
I
being
feel,
rightfully defensive and being like irrationally
yeah,
defensive.
I feel like you can be defensive on something if you know for a fact that that's not true. But majority of the time, right, when you are emotionally defensive, right, I feel like that's because you know what that person is telling you is true. It hits home. It hits deep.
It relates to denial.
Yeah, I mean, denial is a river in Africa and you're living in it. Like that's literally why I feel like people get defensive. It's like I just pushed a button that you did not want to be pushed because you knew deep down that that shit is
is
like
you and you don't
is
like it and
you
don't want to accept it
and
and
you
yeah.
don't want to grow. You don't want to let it go. So
Let it go.
we're going to be
Let it
defensive and we're going
go.
to and like it ties
Push
into
it
the
as
next
far
one,
away as possible.
avoidance. There you
Oh
go.
yeah.
It ties into the next one, avoidance. So I just feel like that those are honestly, I feel like defensiveness and avoidance are like the key like immaturity, emotional immaturity traits right there. Those are like the top ones.
Yeah, I agree with
Um,
that.
yeah. Then you got conflict issues, struggling to handle disagreements calmly, but that ties in with impulsivity. And then you got self-focus, prioritizing their needs over others.
Selfish the house.
Yeah, like okay, we don't want to we didn't learn the basics in kindergarten, like sharing is caring, I guess. Like go ahead, pop off sis. And then poor boundaries, so like not respecting personal limits. Or I also feel like not respecting others' boundaries is also an emotional like immaturity
And
trait.
not even knowing your own boundaries.
Well, that too. Like how do you like, put your foot down if
Understand other people's
yeah,
boundaries if you don't know what your
if yeah,
boundaries are.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
those are some emotional immaturity traits. And if you guys have any more that you can think of, I feel like these are like the
Mm,
main ones, but comment those below and then we can probably dive into those on social media and have a
yeah.
convo about it. Like we said, we have a Reddit too, if you guys ever want to talk
Oh
about
my
things
gosh,
deeper.
yeah. I haven't really good put anything on there, but I plan to. Okay.
Right.
I literally, not me removing it from Linktree because I felt bad that I didn't do anything yet.
It happens. It
It's
happens.
fine, but I think that like as our people continue to want to be involved, that's going to be such a great little platform to do that stuff on. And I feel like
Mhm.
a lot of these emotional immaturity traits that we kind of just covered, a lot of them, you're right, are kind of the generic, like everyone knows them, and a lot of them are action based. But I also feel like it relates to how you communicate with other people in
Mhm.
addition to how you perceive yourself and your own emotions because I feel like the way in which you engage with other people is because you treat yourself that way in
Yeah.
some retrospect. Like you might be avoiding your feelings, you might be blaming yourself for certain things. So it's really kind of, awareness is always kind of the key here of like, where am I showing up in a toxic way, like all of our other episodes?
Look within.
Look within.
That's gonna be my Instagram bio.
You would have, sorry, I was about to say something so shady.
What? Don't start clocking my tea, Chloe.
But it's called
Like,
the cosmic call out, bitch. Like,
okay, but each episode is calling me out. Let's not.
it's because you can't call me out because I
I
be
did
so
the other day
easy.
though.
T, T. No, because I'm not perfect. Listen, we all get it.
Yeah, of
But
course.
but no, it was just it's the shady Capricorn in me that was gonna be like, you have to look within to be able to tell people to look within.
I do look within. Do I shut the door? Sometimes. Not all the
Sometimes.
times.
Sometimes you're like, I don't want to go in there, which is okay. So that's the whole point is like these emotional immature traits, we all have them. And they're gonna always come up probably, especially if we've been kind of in that energy for most of our
Hmm.
lives. But I feel like the root of this episode is to not only become aware of where we all as individuals like possess and act on those traits, but we're probably doing well and we're feeling more emotionally mature and what aspects we're stronger in or weaker in and how we kind of grow and transcend those behaviors and thoughts and feelings that are immature to better serve us and be more
Yeah.
aligned with who we truly are as people. So I think that's probably a good place to like for me to hop into like what the mature ones are. So I have
Go
my
get
hand.
it. Get
Go
in
get
there.
it.
Get in
Get
there.
it. Oh, I love
Let
to
them
get
know
in
what's
there.
up. Let them know
I'd
what's
love
up.
Oh, I love to get in
Oh my God.
there. Okay. Sorry.
Pause.
Okay. Um, Accountability, right? This kind of,
Mhm.
I feel like it's like I was going to say that this order might be the opposite of the previous order, but I don't think that's actually true. So I'm just going to go through them one by one. So accountability, we know this because we've talked about it before, taking responsibility for your actions,
Yeah.
being aware of what you're doing, owning up to maybe when you behaved in a way that was immature,
Hmm.
not judging yourself, but in not blaming somebody else, but just saying, hey, I noticed that I maybe didn't handle this the best way I could
Yeah.
have.
Acknowledge
right?
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that simple.
Odds are
Um,
you might avoid complete conflict if you just simply take a step back and say, "Hey, I effed up. I'm sorry," or like, "I'll do better next time."
right. And but in the same sense, like you could easily take accountability, but if you don't make the change, then you're still being emotionally immature.
Exactly.
So it's like a catch-22 that way, but like or some people might just say like, "Oh, like I'm sorry I did that to avoid conflict."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes it's good to like have the disagreements for a little bit just so you can understand one another's perspective to a degree.
Yeah.
So, but that's where it kind of goes into empathy too, right? Which
Hmm.
is what you talked about. It's having not only care for how you're feeling, but care for how someone else is feeling to a certain degree. I don't think we need to be people pleasers here. I
No.
don't think that we need to prioritize, that's boundaries too. We don't need to prioritize other people's emotions over ours because at the end of the day, we're only responsible for how we control our own emotions. That's the
Yeah.
only thing we can control.
Hmm.
Um, but I think the key is being aware of your own emotions and knowing how to communicate your emotional state to somebody because you care for them too, and they deserve to know, right? And that
Yeah.
builds trust. So, like thoughtful communication, expressing yourself clearly and respectfully, right? We're not yelling, screaming, kicking off,
No, that's not going to
blaming.
get anywhere.
No, it never works. Having patience, responding calmly instead of reacting impulsively, right? Like so many times, like we'll hear what someone has to say and like we'll just see red. And I feel like that's where people respond or react very negatively or immaturely because they didn't even take a second to breathe and see why that upset them
And
before
then
they
the thing is, it's like if you reverse the roles, that person that's seeing red and reacting, crazy would probably, be reacting the same way if the roles were reversed, like they would be more calm about it. They would be trying to explain themselves and would feel bad about the situation. But, you're
react.
over here seeing red and completely, ignoring the fact that you're a human being too. It could be the other way. It could literally be the other way around.
Yeah, or like
Um,
trying to figure out your emotions while you're communicating them will do that too. Because I feel like there were times where I've expressed how I was feeling emotionally, calmly, maturely, and then I'm met with like an emotional reaction that was
mhm.
more immature. And and this is where like you have to really pay attention to your own energy because I'll pick up on that energy. Because if someone's raising their voice at me, I can raise my voice too.
Yeah.
So like, let's go. But like, I don't want to do that.
We
So
can
it's
go
paying
band to
attention.
band.
Yeah, like we can, like you'll get slit. Like good luck, because I'll dish back that energy. But
And
now I'm not trying
yeah.
not to do that.
And if you feel like you can't have that conversation in the moment, take a walk.
Take space,
Like
dude.
have some
Process
space.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like do a
for
little
sure.
like prayer, or meditation, deep breath, anything you got to do, but like
Shower,
I
process it.
yeah. Yeah, just
Got to.
mhm.
Patience, that's kind of like what it is. It's like
Yeah.
learning how to listen instead of just going into that defensive mode right away. Because odds
Yeah.
are, whatever that person's expressing, it's not necessarily personal. It's just what they're going through, and they just are looking for support.
Hmm.
And so when you feel the need to get defensive, it's like that person's not going to feel safe to come to you and express how they're
Hmm.
feeling going forward. I think that resilience has to do with that too, to some degree, which is the next one, because that's like bouncing back from setbacks and learning from challenges. So if you're seeing that, like, the way in which you're communicating with somebody is really challenging, but you love that person, seeing where you can improve in your communication and then communicating with them where you feel like you're still having difficulties
Yeah.
communicating with them and like observing their behavior, not from a place of judgment or anger or frustration, but saying like, I feel like I'm doing all I can to like talk to you. And it seems like you don't even want to talk about it sometimes. And like, that's hard as a partner because I love and care about you. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? I feel like when you approach things with that demeanor, they might actually sit back and be like, oh, like I didn't want that. Like I love you. And like I didn't mean to be defensive, but like it hit a nerve in me. And so I reacted. It just like
Yeah.
it's the tone is everything. Knowing your boundaries, like if you feel like it's getting really heated and someone like curses at you, I'm done with that conversation. You're not going to speak to me like that.
Hmm.
You're not going to call me names. It just doesn't work. at all in me because I'm like, okay, if you're in that level of energy where you're cussing me out because I came to you with how I feel, that's my boundary. I'm like, I'm not speaking to you until you can speak to me like I'm someone you love and care about because that
Yeah.
how you're doing it, ain't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Child. It's not. It's not. I read a quote the other day, but I'm trying to like remember what it was. It was along those lines of like communication, but it was like
Mm.
basically just to sum it up because I don't remember fully
Give me
what
the
it said.
gist,
Yeah, it
the
was like
cliff
how
notes.
communication is important, but like understanding is even more important because how can I communicate, right?
Mm.
And that person doesn't understand what I'm communicating to them. You get what I'm saying? Like,
Mm.
you know what I'm saying? You getting my drift a little bit?
I do because I think it's one of those things where you can be an excellent communicator,
Mm-hmm.
but if you're communicating with someone who doesn't know how to communicate because they don't know how to listen,
Mm-hmm.
because speaking and listening are kind of like go hand in hand.
Well, it's like active listening. Okay, like are you just hearing the words or are you
Are
actually
you
like
processing?
intaking and processing what I'm saying and trying to understand where I'm coming from? Like, or are you just simply sitting there like, mm-hmm,
Yeah, yeah, whatever. I don't actually care what
mm-hmm.
you have to
Yeah, like
say.
it doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
you're just pleasing that person by like pretending essentially,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Mm.
So I saw that quote and I thought it was pretty interesting because I was like, you always hear about like communication being like a big, like emotional thing that helps people and stuff, but then you don't actually like when you are communicating with someone, right? Whether it be your like loved one, friends, whatever, significant other, that is like one frustrating thing that I will have to say that you're communicating, but they're not understanding what you're communicating to them.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes that has to do with emotional maturity, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like if they're in their head, like, I don't know what this girl's talking about, like if they're in that energy, of course they're not going to hear what you have to say. I also feel like it almost relates to noticing when you're communicating. Are you communicating with somebody or are you communicating at somebody?
Yeah.
There's a difference to
Mm-hmm.
me, at least. Am I just telling you, you're doing this, you're doing
Like
that, da, da, da.
nagging. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody is going to respond well to
Yeah.
that because they're
Nagging,
just going to feel,
complaining.
yeah, they're just
Yeah.
going to feel under attack. So I think that your intention in which you're communicating something matters. If you're
Yeah.
communicating something because you've done the work to process how you're feeling and
Mm-hmm.
you're sure of it, and because you're with somebody or a friend to somebody or a lover to somebody, like that it's been weighing on you and
Mm-hmm.
you feel like they deserve to know or they would want to know if you were feeling some type of way,
Yeah.
like coming at it from the intention of, I learned this in conflict resolution somewhere at some point, which is, it's really helpful to use I statements instead of you statements. So like, for example, I'll role play with Victoria for a second. If I was upset with Victoria because she did something that I felt like disrespected my stuff. For example, say we're like roommates or something.
Yeah.
Instead of me coming to her and being like, "You're not doing this. This is why you're pissing
Mm-hmm.
me off. Like you're the reason why I feel this way. Like you're
Yeah.
annoying. You're not thinking about me." You know, Victoria is going to receive that like, why is she coming at me like this?
Yeah. You're just
And that's what
nagging.
triggers defensiveness because it's like that's just it's like that fight or flight kicks in,
Yeah.
so to speak, because you feel like you're telling me like I'm this big problem and I don't feel like I'm like
Yeah. Well,
that, so
you're
I'm gonna be
you're basically like
defensive.
yeah, you're basically like pointing the finger. You're just like
Yeah, blaming.
you
Right.
when me did not know that those actions were gonna make you feel that way,
Right. And so I
Versus
think
if
those
you come
I
from yeah,
statements help.
if you come
Yeah.
from a place of like it made me feel this way for this to happen, whatever, like maybe then I'll be like, oh, that wasn't my intention. Let me,
Mm.
organize the desk or let me clean up after things like that. Let me do
Yeah.
that instead of me
Very
feeling
much
like, okay,
so.
well, where's she? What is she doing right now? Why is she nagging at
Yeah.
me?
even something like, because to me, I noticed if someone came to me and said what you just said of like, I noticed you do this and it made me feel this way, I still would take it personally, I think,
Well,
because
not like me say not like you saying like you did this so it made me feel this way. Like I'll just be
oh,
like, well, like the
I
space is
noticed
a
that I
mess.
felt this way in
Yeah, like
response to this outside thing that
mm-hmm.
isn't necessarily something you did, but it could have been. And I think that like assuring people and giving some validation
Yeah.
in conversation helps a lot too. Because I feel like I've had to do that where I'm like, I'm going to preface this by saying to you, like, I really care about you and I appreciate all you've done for me.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed that you do this thing, which makes total sense why you do that, because that's just how you live. And I don't have a problem with that. I'm just letting you know that I noticed within me, I kind of had a negative reaction to it. And instead of like being passive aggressive or holding it against you, I feel
Yeah.
it's best to let you know how I'm feeling, not because I expect you to do anything about it, but because I respect you enough to tell you what's going on with
Yeah,
me.
make people aware.
Yeah, I think that it
Yeah.
helps because I think that going in with the expectation that I'm not trying to change how you're feeling. I care about you enough to express how I'm feeling because I know that you would want to know.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times people are like, yeah, like, thank you. Like, I just appreciate you telling me. And like, I
Mm-hmm.
care about how you feel. It's not an inconvenience for me to pick the towel up off the floor.
Right.
I'll hang it up. Like, I'm happy to do that for you if it helps you to feel a little bit better. But if you don't feel good going into that conversation and you are already like,
Mm-hmm.
like, it's just, that's not, you get more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. That's a good saying for
Not,
that.
not another
That's an actual one.
one.
That is a real saying. Don't fight me. Other people know that phrase, I swear.
I've never heard that in my life, but
It's
pop
a
off.
real thing. That
I
is a
believe
real
you.
thing.
I
I
believe
stand
you.
by it.
I believe you. I
It's an
just
oldie, but a goodie.
I need to start making like credits with just your quotes.
Rolling credit of quotes would be crazy.
I'm gonna start working on it.
Thank you. I think it's good. I think it'll be a great like little ending page in my book one day of like all of these random phrases that I
Yes.
use are just made up completely. But that was not one I've made up. That's a real
I
one.
100% believe you. I've just never heard of it, but pop off, I
But it's
guess.
then it's not it's a very applicable phrase because I
Yeah.
think that people, let's take the Karens out there, for instance. Okay, a lot of
Oh.
people know what a Karen is. Okay. I want to talk to the manager kind of energy.
Yeah.
You Karens out there, you let me know how often that's really worked for you to get what you want. Because
It
10 out
doesn't.
of 10 times, pretty much, you're not going to get the results you want by tearing someone's asshole up. It just doesn't work. And I find that when I'm sweet as pie and I'm like, hey, sorry to inconvenience you, but I'm just noticing that this thing in my office like isn't to my liking. Is there anything that you can do to like help me with that? A lot of
Mm-hmm.
times people are way more receptive to being like, "Oh my God, yeah, of course." Like it's so rare that for me personally that I've asked for something in my life and haven't gotten it because I was kind in my request.
Yeah.
It's just never, it's pretty rare that I've never gotten what I've wanted because I'm so nicely asking that it's hard for people to be like, no, F you. But if you're sitting there like, you better make my latte da, 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 like this, it's like you're just making me want to spit in it at this point.
I had one instance at TJ Maxx where I brought up a set and it had like a little tear, but I was planning on just sewing it when I got
Yeah,
home.
yeah, yeah, sure.
And I asked for the discount because they usually give you a discount if like there's like a scratch
If
or like
it's
a tear.
damaged, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
She literally looked at me and was like, "No." She's like, "I have to defect this." And I was like, "But you can't just give me like 10%? Like, please."
No, it depends on the company policy. As someone who worked in
I
retail, like
know.
I can't like, and it's so much worse when you actually bring it to attention because they're like, I have to damage this, and it's like, shit, I
Yeah.
shouldn't have said anything because I would have done it myself.
Frustrated me and I was like, "Please." And she's like, "No, I can't." And I'm like, "But why?"
But I'm like, okay, I'll just buy it. Like, don't damage it out. I'll just take it,
I
whatever.
tried. She wouldn't. She at that point she had to like fully take it away from me. I was like, "But
She didn't have to.
I know she didn't, but then she brought it up to the manager and the manager was a butt face and she was
I
very
don't
much
know. As
me.
someone who's been a manager, if someone wants to buy my damaged item for full price, I'm about the money. Take it.
Yeah. But it was literally like on the seam of the
I
skirt.
I bet she would have made her day that day if she had just sold that to you because that's
It was
crazy
literally
work.
the seam of the skirt. It was the easiest sewing job I've ever seen. Like it was even folded perfectly where the seam was. Like the seam just came undone.
Rookie mistake that you wanted to get a discount for that,
It's
knowing that it
worked
was
before. It was just that one time.
yeah, I guess it just depends on the place and depends on the
Yeah.
people. But it is one of those things where, yeah, sometimes you will ask nicely and not get what you want. There's a truth in that. But I feel like more often than not, if you're mature in how you communicate and you're kind in the way you
Hmm.
treat people and you respect them, and I think that this kind of relates to even like the food and retail industry where people are very nasty to a
Oh,
lot of those workers. And you and I really can relate to this because we've worked on all spectrums of it.
yeah.
Like you ruin relationships that way. To
Hmm.
me, if you express gratitude and appreciation for what I'm doing for you,
Yeah.
and you're mature in the way that you communicate with me, I'm going to call you up. Hey, girl, you got this thing. It's so cute. Like I'm saving it for you. You
Yeah.
just get benefits like that.
I've done that. When I worked at the vape shop in Hawaii, I had this
Mm.
lady looking for a specific what's that called? A flavor. And she was looking for it for a while. It got to the
Oh.
point where like, but she was so sweet. I wrote down her number and I wrote down her name. And when we got it in, I was able to save her like five of them so she could buy them in bulk real quick. And it just became like a regular thing. And I just feel like people were much nicer over there because here, like I've gotten
Depends on
cursed
where you
out.
are.
Like, why are you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I've lived in New Jersey and New York, and I've lived in a lot of places,
Yeah,
but to be quite honest with you, there's assholes everywhere. The same way there's good people everywhere. Like
I
there's
know.
just they're always gonna exist. But I guarantee that if that girl came in and it was like, F you, you never have this flavor, like I'm never shopping here again, I'm gonna
I
leave you a
was
nasty
never
review.
gonna have it for her again. It was always gonna suddenly
Yup.
disappear the minute that she walked in.
And it also relates to last week's episode, you get what you give.
Yeah, because I
You
just
want to
work
be
here.
immature towards me? I'm gonna be petty.
Right. I just work here. I don't own the company. And even if I did, your attitude is not going to get you what you want. It's never worked, not even when you were little, when you were throwing a tantrum. You as an adult throwing a tantrum is not going to work.
Well, and
So let's calm down.
it's really earth-shattering, I feel like, for those people who did get what they wanted when they threw temper tantrum, because that's a
Yeah.
learned behavior. Mommy gives in if I cry because she doesn't want me making a scene. So when you grow
Hmm.
into adulthood and you expect to get things that same way, you're in for a rude awakening because
Yeah.
it doesn't happen that way. And I feel like I've gotten a lot of joy a little bit from interactions like that in my life because when
Hmm.
someone is screaming at me, a lot of the times like they want a reaction out of you or like to get what they want, right? That's usually one of the two things. But I am wonderful at customer service in the sense that I am so calm.
Yeah. I
Like
just tell them, thank you. Have a great day. Please leave my store. Thank you. Have a great day. Like,
here, Victoria, let's role play for instance, okay? You're an emotionally immature, 38-year-old woman who came into my store and, you know, you bought something, but it was, a year ago and you've used it, it's been worn, it's beat up, it's awful, but you want your money back and you're trying to do a return. Okay? Go ahead.
I know I don't have a receipt and I know that I bought this a year ago, but I need my money back right now.
Okay, completely understandable. I know that it's been a year, so typically we don't accept returns past
Oh no,
30
I need to
days.
speak to the manager right now.
So I am the manager. So that's
Oh,
our policy for the company.
I don't care about policy. I bought this from here and I need a return right now. I need my money right now.
Can I ask you what was wrong with the item that you feel the need to return it? If it's been a year, it looks like you've used it a few times. What happened?
No, it didn't work. I just need a return. I can't do
So
this.
usually that's where I take a pause because in my own head, right, and this is a real life experience, I've been like, okay, how do I communicate an answer that they don't want to hear
Hmm.
over and over again? So this is where I usually go. Okay, I understand how you feel. It seems like you're very frustrated and overwhelmed, and you probably want your money back because it didn't work for you. Unfortunately, because it does look like it did work for you because it's been pretty worn and used, because I know what the product looks like typically before you take it home and what it looks like a year later after it's been used every single day.
Right.
It looks like you quite like this product looks really well loved. So I'm kind of confused why you seem to feel that way. And as much as I would love to help you, I unfortunately am not the decision maker from a corporate level. It's my job and responsibility to follow my direction. I'm more than happy to give you the number for corporate if you'd like to call and complain to them. But this is our policy, and if you had kept your receipt, you would have known that that was the policy because it's written on the bottom.
And then cue the tantrum where they tell you, like, you just lost a customer. And it's like, bro,
I'm
goodbye.
so
Like,
I'm so deeply sorry. I'm so deeply sorry you feel that way. And if this is where like I'm dramatic, right? If I could change the policy myself, I
right,
would. I
right.
would.
They
I
don't
would do it for
care.
you because I
Yeah.
understand how you feel. What I can do, so if it's not been a year, right? Like let's say it's been like 30, like for example, Nordstrom, when I worked there, they didn't have a 30-day return policy. You could kind of return whenever. But
Hmm.
I try to save the sale as much as I can. So I try to like replace it. So I'll say, what were you unhappy with? Can we exchange it and find something better for you? And then
Or
usually
worst comes
that
to worst,
helps.
like store credit, but usually they don't want store credit because they didn't actually buy it there or
No,
whatever.
it's because all of a sudden they're out 20 bucks and they need 20
Yeah.
bucks, so they're going to try to return it. But like I think the key is more often than not when I empathize with them, they're like, okay, like I understand, and they'll go away. But the people who are really
Yeah.
scamming out there like that, they're not going to get it. And that's where I'm like hitting my security button.
Right. I think just moral of the story is
Be kind to
yeah, be
people,
kind, approach people
respect the
respectfully,
rules.
right? Like, treat others how you would want to be treated, and that's it. That's it. And if you wanna sorry, my dog just made a weird noise.
Luke agrees. Luke is like, these bitches.
No, but yeah, just I don't know, just be patient, just be kind, be kind not just to others but to yourself.
Well,
And
put yourself in other people's shoes too,
yeah, like
because
that
like
person can be having a really bad day.
listen, with all of my being, I wish I could help you, but unfortunately, sometimes I can't, and that's just the reality. But I'm
Yeah.
more than happy to like communicate your concerns and provide that feedback and
Hmm.
solve it to the best of my ability. But there comes a point where when people are acting from that place of immaturity, I so calmly say something along those lines, like I did. Well, it was communicated to you what our policy was, and you agreed to it by
Yeah.
purchasing something from our store. So if
Yeah.
that is not a policy that is good enough for you, there are maybe probably other places who would allow you to return this. But as someone who's worked in a lot of retail, unfortunately, this is kind of standard. So
Yeah.
I recommend next time like deciding if you like or don't like this thing a little sooner because you could get a refund next time.
Yeah. And then just in general, yeah, I feel like those are some good life examples of like where you
How
can
you
see it.
see it every
Yeah.
day.
How
I
you,
mean,
yeah.
that's a good way to deal with strangers, especially if any people out there work in
Yeah.
customer service. I think that it trained me to be emotionally mature because you don't want to lose customers. But I think that it's always harder to communicate the deeper emotions because, like, if that's how someone's acting about a return, you can imagine how those people react like in their own relationships. Scary stuff, to be
Mm-hmm.
quite honest with you. So I feel like having empathy, understanding where someone's coming from,
Hmm.
knowing that sometimes like that person might just be having a bad day and sometimes
Yeah.
like that was just icing on the cake, like they're like this is it, and then you're just being the one released on. So if you can not take that personally and not respond back and meet that same energy, like
Yeah.
you
Just
kind of
don't
won.
don't lower yourself to their same level. If they want to be, how she always says, if they want to be down here, let them be
Leave
down here.
them,
But
leave
you,
them.
you come up
Take the high
here.
road, be the better person
Yes.
sometimes.
Yes.
Not just because you feel like you're better than them, but because it
No.
feels better. It just feels
No.
better to
Yeah.
like be like, I understand how she's feeling. Like it's unfortunate that she reacted that way. Like I hope she has a better day. And you just
Hmm.
wish well upon people in that aspect. But I do feel like generally speaking, especially in closer relationships with people, learning to take a pause
Yeah.
and because like I definitely have reacted out of anger and frustration before in an immature
Yeah.
way, like anybody else, especially in like romantic relationships or like with your parents where you feel like you can get away sometimes with being a
Hmm.
little more nasty. Um, and understanding that it's almost inevitable
Yeah.
that people are going to respond that way. But I think that it's reflecting even after the fact, if you didn't get a chance to do it before you react, and apologizing and saying,
Well,
this is
I
not how I would
also,
prefer.
right. I also feel like if somebody reacts that way towards you and you react calmly and with emotional maturity,
Mm.
it almost confuses them. It's like, wait, I was expecting you to yell at me. I was expecting you to curse me out. Like, why are you not doing that? And they get even more mad when they're very emotionally immature.
Infuriated.
The
I've
blood is
witnessed it.
boiling.
My dad has this phrase that's like cool heads prevail. And there's a lot of truth to that because I've seen some people go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs when I've
Hmm.
met them with this like
Yeah. Just
kind of
don't react. Don't
energy
react. Yeah.
because they're looking for that in a way, or like they're so pleasantly surprised I didn't clap back that they calm down. There's so many potential ways that it can unfold to
Hmm.
some degree, but I think that especially when it comes to people you care about, no one can disrupt my peace at this point in my life.
Yeah.
There's just nothing that anyone could say to me that would make me scream and shout at you,
Right.
unless like it was so blatantly disrespectful and like I react because I care and I'm
Hmm.
passionate in it and I say what I gotta say based on what you did. Like that's just cause and effect, I feel
Yeah.
like at
Yeah.
that point. But for the most part, can't catch me
Yeah.
lowering my own stuff.
Yeah. I think bottom line of this topic, because I know we're running out of time, is just be patient, be mindful. Don't let others, take away your
Yeah.
your progress. And
See where you
yeah.
need to progress, see
Yeah,
where
that
you can
too.
respond in ways that are better. And
We
usually the
are,
people around you are telling you, but you're denying it or, being defensive about it because you don't
yeah.
want to look at that part of you. But just understand everyone has that part of them. So if you can be compassionate with that part of
Yeah.
yourself and know,
We're ever growing
yeah,
and you got
exactly.
this. You got this queen, you got this king, you got this all of the people around.
Royalty.
Right, you got this. And with that being said, thank you guys for
Love
watching.
y'all.
We
See
love
you
you
next
guys so much.
time.
Tune in next week. Bye.